my gosh!
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the coelacanth. Imagine discovering a creature believed to have vanished with the dinosaurs, only to find it alive and swimming beneath the waves. That's the incredible tale of the coelacanth, a prehistoric fish thought to be extinct for over 80 million years until one was caught off the South African coast in 1938. With its limb-like fins that move like our own arms and legs, and an extra lobe on its tail, the coelacanth is a living fossil that offers a window into our planet's distant past. Subsequent captures and photographs, including a new species found near Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, revealed that these mysterious fish were not only alive, but thriving in deep underwater caves. Their unexpected reappearance challenges what we know about extinction and reminds us that the ocean still holds many secrets waiting to be discovered. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Lord Howe Island stick insect. Picture stumbling upon a creature so rare it was thought extinct, surviving on a single shrub atop a remote sea stack. The Lord Howe Island stick insect, affectionately dubbed the land lobster due to its hefty size, stretching up to 12 centimeters long, was once so plentiful on Lord Howe Island that fishermen used them as bait. After invasive rats decimated their population by 1920, they were declared extinct in the 1960s. But in 2001, a daring expedition to the jagged peaks of Ball's Pyramid, a sheer volcanic spike rising from the ocean 20 kilometers away, led to an astonishing discovery. There, clinging to life under a melaleuca bush, a tiny colony of these giant insects was found and captured on camera. This incredible comeback story has ignited efforts to breed them in captivity, with hopes of reintroducing them to their original homeland. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Fernandina giant tortoise. Imagine discovering a creature thought to have vanished over a century ago, alive and plodding along in the wild. That is exactly what happened with the Fernandina Island Galapagos tortoise. First found in 1906 and then presumed extinct after that lone specimen, hope was reignited when explorers captured on camera an elderly female tortoise on remote Fernandina Island in February 2019. This remarkable find was confirmed in 2021 when genetic tests proved she belongs to the long-lost subspecies. Now, conservationists are on an exhilarating mission to find her a mate and revive the population of these magnificent giants. In our number 7 spot today, we have Wallace's giant bee. For this one, we have to picture encountering a bee so colossal it's the size of your thumb. That's Wallace's giant bee, the world's largest known bee species, once believed to be extinct. First discovered in 1858 by explorer Alfred Russel Wallace in the Indonesian wilds, this magnificent insect seemed to vanish without a trace. For decades, it was considered lost to history until 1981 when it buzzed back into the spotlight, only to disappear again. Then, in a thrilling twist, a live female was captured on camera in 2019, her enormous jaws and impressive wingspan proving she was no myth. Nesting inside termite mounds on remote Indonesian islands, this king of bees reminds us that nature's most extraordinary secrets are still out there waiting to be rediscovered. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Somali elephant shrew. What if I told you there is a tiny creature that looks like a mix between a mouse, a gazelle, and an elephant, thought to be lost to science for over 50 years? That is the Somali sengai, or elephant shrew, a pint-sized mammal with a trunk-like nose and long, spindly legs that let it dart across rocky terrains at lightning speed. Scientists believed it had vanished since 1968, but in a thrilling turn of events, an expedition in Djibouti in 2019 captured this elusive animal on camera for the very first time. To their astonishment, they found that the Somali sengai wasn't just surviving, it was thriving with no immediate threats. This incredible rediscovery has reignited curiosity and wonder, reminding us that the natural world still holds many hidden treasures waiting to be found. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Bandy Bandy snake. Back in 2018, scientists scientists were returning from a sea snake research mission in Queensland, Australia, when they found a brand new species of snake. Of course, this being Australia, land of things that can kill you, this one was venomous. This new species of Bandy Bandy snake was a startling discovery because Bandy Bandy is a burrowing snake, so those who found it were pretty surprised to have found it on a concrete block near the sea. It turns out this discovery almost didn't happen as well, as it was realized that this snake had come to that location after slithering over from a pile of rubble that was waiting to be loaded onto a ship. This snake is said to have been visually and genetically different from the other 5 known species of Bandy Bandy snakes that live on the continent. And our number 9 spot today, we have the reticulated siren. Florida is the land of the weird, and this creature certainly is no exception. Scientists back in 2018 found this new species of legless salamander that looks kinda like a salamander, kinda like a snake with gills, and kinda like a leopard. This species is said to be among the largest found in the United States in the last century, so it is no doubt that this was quite the find. Researchers said that the creature is completely aquatic and has a long eel-like body, 2 forelimbs, no eyelids, gills, and a horny beak and a spotted pattern on its skin. What's funny is that, while unknown to science, this creature was locally known and it was referred to as a leopard eel. Scientists, while they appreciated the name, thought that they should change it to something more formal since this animal is neither leopard nor eel. In our number 8 spot today, we have the brittle star. This is a species that was found in 2011, but it took 10 years for it to be researched and fully classified, which happened just last year in 2021. This is a species of brittle star that was found during an expedition on the Banque Durand seamount, which is off of the coast of New Caledonia in the Pacific Ocean. This specific brittle star first caught the attention of experts because of 2 atypical features. One was that it had 8 arms. This was unusual because most have 5, and the other unusual feature is their 8 sets of razor-sharp teeth. It is believed that these teeth, which line every jaw, are used to snare and shred their prey. This creature definitely is quite remarkable and is the product of millions of years of evolution, but it is likely the last survivor of an ancient lineage which dates back to the Jurassic period. In our number 7 spot today, we have the zombie frog. This is a type of frog that was first described just last year in 2021. They can be found in French Guiana, and they are nocturnal creatures as well as being ones that primarily live underground. This is exactly what made their discovery so difficult. The frogs thankfully have a unique call sound, which is what allowed researchers to dig through the mud in the middle of the night in order to uncover these elusive creatures. Despite their scary common name, these frogs are not part of the undead. Their name actually comes from what the scientists said they all looked and felt like after digging through the mud all night trying to find these dang frogs. While these frogs and their populations need much more examination and research, it is currently thought that they might unfortunately be endangered. In our number 6 spot today, we have the sheet weaver spider. Until recently, these little spiders lived their lives deep inside a cave in Indiana, completely unbeknownst to science. These guys were described in 2018, and they are quite small at only about 2 millimeters long. They're like a sort of dusty yellow or tan color, and they are said to have black circles around their eyes. They are best known for their sheet web skills, which are these intricate, flat, tightly woven horizontal webs. The scientific names of these spiders was inspired by Dr. Julian Lewis, who is said to have assisted greatly in the discovery of this new spider species. It is said that this discovery marks the 15th species in the genus and the 5th known to live their lives only in caves.
Number 10. Dinosaur. When it comes to big things, dinosaurs were pretty damn big. Scientists were able to uncover the fossilized remains of a new and unknown species of dinosaur underneath the ice sheets in Greenland. When the dinosaurs were alive, the Earth was a lot warmer and more tropical, these fossils becoming trapped under the ice when the climate changed into the Ice Age. The skull they found is thought to be a 2-legged plant-eating dinosaur of medium size, and they dubbed the new species Issy-Sinique. The dinosaur is believed to have grown to the size of 10 to 30 feet, and the skull they found is thought to be that of a younger dinosaur that had not fully grown yet. They used computer technology to create 3D scans of the head before sending the specimens to the Natural History Museum in Denmark, as they have sovereignty over the country of Greenland. It is the first known dinosaur to have been native to Greenland and is thought to come from the late Triassic period around 200 million years ago. Number 9. Bison. The massive carcass of a bison known as a steppe bison was found by a gold mining family in Alaska way back in 1979. They were using a mining hose and were melting a frozen block of ice, effectively thawing out the creature that had become trapped inside. The bison species is from the Ice Age, and the body that they found is thought to be tens of thousands of years old. Once they were finally able to fully excavate the body, they found other things alongside it, including hair, insects, wood, and different plants. When the pelt of the animal reacted to the soil around it, it turned the body blue, and so the bison ended up being dubbed Blue Babe. Analysis of the body showed it had died 36,000 years ago, a result of being attacked by an Ice Age lion. The ice allowed the creature to be incredibly well preserved, scientists even being able to find pockets of blood in the body. Number 8. Cave bear. This specimen found on an island in the Arctic was a very unique discovery, said to be one of the first of its kind. Researchers found a well-preserved body of a cave bear that was around 40,000 years old. Cave bears would grow to be around 7 feet long and typically weighed over 1,000 pounds in their adulthood. Before this discovery was made, they only knew about the animal from skulls and bones, and had never found a specimen that was this fully preserved. The body that they found had all of its organs still, and even still had its nose on its face, paired with its terrifyingly massive sharp teeth. According to one of Russia's leading Ice Age experts, the discovery of the body was of world importance and is the first and only find of its kind. The body was found by a group of reindeer herders on the island and was then sent around to various scientists to study the life of the animal. Number 7. Horned lark. Alright, some of these creatures aren't that big, but they're still pretty interesting, and size doesn't matter anyways. In 2018, fossil hunters were in the northeastern part of Siberia, known as the Pole of Cold, and they were tunneling into the permafrost. Deep underground, they discovered the body of a bird thought to be around 46,000 years old, but it was incredibly well preserved, and scientists say that it looks like it could have only died a few days ago. Researchers believe that it is the ancestor of the horned lark bird and is the first of its kind to have ever been discovered. It is also said to be one of the best preserved specimens ever discovered, as it was almost completely intact and still had all of its parts. The Ice Age that took place is thought to have generated many new species who adapted, and this is one of them. Siberia is home to a lot of frozen discoveries due to its freezing cold temperatures, and who knows what else is sitting in the ice, just waiting to be found. Number 6. Wolf. The Pleistocene era, or Ice Age, lasted from about 2 million to 11,000 years ago, and many great extinct creatures we've discovered come from this era. One of these discoveries was the head of a massive Ice Age era wolf that was still snarling 40,000 years after it had died. It was found in a cold region of Russia and is one of the first full-sized frozen wolves ever to be discovered. They found it in the summer of 2018, and it was described as having mammoth-like fur, sharp fangs, and was between the ages of 2 and 4 when it passed away. Because only the head was discovered, it only gave small clues towards the evolution of wolves and how they have changed and adapted over the years, but researchers were still able to reconstruct the head using 3D models and get a solid understanding of what these Ice Age wolves looked like. In fact, the specimen was so well preserved that it even still had parts of its brain.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Meraxes gigas. Just a couple of months ago, in the northern Patagonia area of Argentina, researchers uncovered a new dinosaur species that is being called Meraxes gigas. This gigantic carnivorous creature is said to have been similar to a T-Rex in that it had quite a large head and tiny little arms. The remains of this creature were actually discovered over a period of a few years, and in the end, the name scientists chose was after one of the dragons in the Song of Ice and Fire book that inspired Game of Thrones. Clearly, the dinosaur was discovered before the scientists saw the finale. The remains of this dinosaur indicate that these guys lived to be be about 45 years of age and that they weighed about 4 metric tons and lived somewhere from 90 million to 100 million years ago. In our number 9 spot today we have Jakapil kaniukura. Recently in South America, scientists have found fossils of small, prickly dinosaurs that might just represent an entire lineage of dinosaurs that were previously undiscovered and unknown to science. This species is an armored dinosaur that lived during the Cretaceous era, which was the last era of the dinosaurs, about 97 to 94 million years ago. These dinosaurs were relatively small, weighing only about as much as a house cat. Imagine instead of having a cat, having a little spiky dinosaur running around instead. These guys had a row of spikes running from their neck to their tail, and they grew to be an estimated 5 feet or 1.5 meters long, and rather than a small but mighty carnivore, these guys much preferred to chow down on the plant life in the area they lived. In our number 8 spot today we have Mbiresaurus raathi. This discovery came over the course of 2 archaeological digs, one in 2017 and one in 2019, after which the researchers responsible were able to uncover a mostly intact skeleton, which is astonishing. The skeleton is said to have belonged to a new long-necked dinosaur. Other than the fact that the skeleton was intact, what made this discovery so remarkable is that it is the oldest dinosaur skeleton ever found in Africa, as it was found in northern Zimbabwe. This dinosaur is believed to have grown to be about 6 feet long with its tail, and it weighed somewhere from 20 to 65 pounds. It is thought that the remains that these scientists uncovered might be as old as 230 million years. In our number 7 spot today we have the white rock spinosaurid. Recently on the Isle of Wight, researchers found bones including a huge pelvic bone and tail vertebrae that may belong to a newly discovered species of dinosaur, perhaps one of the largest predators ever to roam Europe. One of the leaders of the study said, quote, "Judging from some of the dimensions, it appears to represent one of the largest predatory dinosaurs ever found in Europe, maybe even the biggest yet known." He further added, quote, "It's a shame it's only from a small amount of material, but these are enough to show it was an immense creature." As of now, these remains have been nicknamed the white rock spinosaurid, named after the geological layer of Earth that it was found in. Spinosaurids, which these remains are thought to belong to, are 2-legged creatures with crocodile sort of faces. These remains would have been from a carnivorous creature that grew to be more than 32 feet in length and that lived about 125 million years ago. In our number 6 spot today we have a feathery dinosaur. Later in 2020, a team of paleontologists announced that they had found quite an unusual new dinosaur from Brazil. This feathery dinosaur is said to have been the first of its kind to be found, and right now it is thought to have been a carnivorous creature about the size of a chicken. There is evidence, however, that different from a chicken, these guys may have had stunning, colorful feathers and mating displays that would rival today's peacocks and other birds of paradise. They are also thought to have potentially had 2 stiff, ribbon-like feathers sticking out from each of their shoulders. Right now, there's a little drama surrounding this discovery though, because although this fossil and the creature would have lived in Brazil, our modern discovery came in Germany, which poses the question, how did it get there? Apparently there are some conflicting accounts of how this fossil was transported to Brazil, and this exportation may have been illegal. So, there was even a social media campaign to have the fossil brought back to Brazil, but the State Museum of Natural History Karlsruhe refused. So, everyone's pretty mad about that. There's some dinosaur tea for you in case anyone asks what's the latest in dinosaur drama.
So coming in at number 10 is the most recent sighting. During the last weekend in August, fans of Nessie went on a huge hunt for the monster. That's when the 6th so-called sighting of the Loch Ness monster this year was recorded by a woman who was baffled after seeing a curved creature in the legendary water on August 31st. Fiona Wade claimed that it was like nothing I've seen before and I can only describe as Nessie. She reported seeing something similar to which was spotted by civil servant Alistair Gray on August 26th. Mr. Gray saw 3 odd and seemingly connected shapes near Invermorrison. Miss Wade said her sighting was almost identical to that seen by Mr. Gray and probably in a very similar location. I might add that I was not aware of this sighting on Saturday until returning home this evening. It initially looked like a periscope, but then 2 curved areas followed. It was moving about halfway in the loch, looking roughly over to midway between Foyers and Whitebridge, she said. I've seen deer crossing before, but this was like nothing I have seen before, and I can only describe it as Nessie, as I can't think of any other logical thing it could have been. It was large enough to catch my eye and appeared to leave slight wake behind it, she added. The sighting took place at 10:45 a.m., the water was calm, and there was allegedly no nearby boat activity. The sighting, which lasted 30 to 40 seconds, has been accepted by the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register. Number 9. The first sighting. The earliest report of a monster in the vicinity of Loch Ness appears in the Life of St. Columba by Adaman, written in the 7th century AD. According to Adaman, writing about a century after the events described, Irish monk St. Columba was staying in the land of the Picts with his companions when he encountered local residents burying a man by the river Ness. They explained that the man was swimming in the river when he was attacked by a water beast that mauled him and dragged him underwater, despite their attempts to rescue him by boat. Columba sent a follower, Lugin Mako Min, to swim across the river. The beast approached him, but Columba made the sign of the cross and said, "Go no further, do not touch the man, go back at once." The creature stopped as if it had been pulled back with ropes and fled, and Columba's men and the Picts gave thanks for what they perceived as a miracle. Now, believers in the monster point to this story set in the river Ness rather than the loch itself as evidence for the creature's existence as early as the 6th century. Number 8. Aldie McKay. The best known article that first attracted a great deal of attention about the creature was published on May 2nd, 1933 in the Intervest Courier about a large beast or whale-like fish. The article by Alex Campbell, water bailiff for Loch Ness and part-time journalist, discussed a sighting by Aldie McKay of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch while she and her husband John were driving on the A82 April 15, 1993. Now, the Courier in 2017 published excerpts from the Campbell article, which has been titled "Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness." The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized that there was no ordinary Dizon in the depths because, apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. Number 7. Arthur Grant. On January 5th, 1934, a motorcyclist, Arthur Grant, claimed to have nearly hit the creature while approaching Abreakin near the northeastern end of the loch at about 1 a.m. on a moonlit night. According to Arthur, the creature had a small head attached to a long neck. Then the creature saw him and crossed the road back to the loch. Arthur, a veterinary student, described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. He said he dismounted and followed it to the loch, but only saw ripples. He produced a sketch of the creature that was examined by zoologist Maurice Burton, who stated it was consistent with the appearance and behavior of an otter, but I'm not too sure. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Arthur, it has been suggested that this was a faulty observation due to the poor lighting conditions, and paleontologist Darren Nash has suggested that Arthur may have seen either an otter or seal and exaggerated his sighting over time, but I don't care what they say, that drawing he drew of the beast is the Loch Ness Monster, it's not just a simple otter. Number 6. Surgeon's photograph. The surgeon's photograph is the first photo of the creature's head and neck that was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London gynecologist, and was published in the Daily Mail on April 21st, 1934. According to Dr. Wilson, he was looking at the loch when he saw the monster, grabbed his camera, and snapped 4 photos. Only 2 exposures came out clearly. The first reportedly shows a small head and back, and the second shows a similar head in a diving position. The first photo became well known, and the second attracted little publicity because of its blurriness. Now, for 60 years, the photo was considered evidence of the monster's existence, although skeptics dismissed it. The photo scale was controversial as it often showed cropped, making the creature seem large and the ripples like waves, while the uncropped shot shows the other end of the loch and the monster in the center. The ripples in the photo were found to fit the size and pattern of small ripples rather than large waves photographed up close. Analysis of the original image fostered further doubt, and in 1993 the makers of the Discovery Communications documentary Loch Ness Discovered analyzed the uncropped image and found a white object visible in every version of the photo, implying that it was on the negative. An analysis of the full photo indicated that the object was small, about 2 to 3 feet long, but I don't know though, that just sounds like a cover-up to me.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the woolly mammoth. We would certainly be missing a very important animal on this list if we didn't include the woolly mammoth. These guys were of course a species of mammoth, and in fact, they were one of the last in line of mammoth species, because of the fact that in both Alaska and Siberia there were frozen carcasses discovered, they're actually one of the most well-studied extinct creatures. Exactly why or how they were driven to extinction is widely debated, and another thing people like to debate is whether or not we should try and bring them back. There was a genome project completed in 2015, and since then it has been proposed that the species could be revived through a few different means, but no one yet has taken the leap. Here's the thing though, there's a new company that is pretty set on de-extincting woolly mammoths, and they have a new investor. This investor is called In-Q-Tel, and they are registered as a non-profit venture capital firm that is funded by none other than the CIA. They claim that the interest in this company is less about mammoths and more about the capability to do such crazy projects. What do you guys think about reviving extinct animals? Are we on board? Are we terrified? Let us know down below in the comments.
Number 9. Passenger pigeons. The passenger pigeon once ruled the skies over Canada as recently as the 19th century. Billions of these bright orange birds would paint the skies, but only a few decades passed and passenger pigeons are gone. They're just no more. Now we have the pigeons that follow you onto the subway, you know? What happened, right? The very last passenger pigeon was Martha. She passed away in the Cincinnati Zoo back in 1914. So we took a look at her DNA to see if Martha held any secrets to her past, and lo and behold, they discovered Martha had a low genetic diversity for such a growing population. Natural selection and hunting eliminated arguably the coolest looking bird alive. Well, not alive anymore. The last one died in 1914, but in 2019, paleontologists found remains of the pigeon in protected indigenous lands in Canada in the Northwest Territories. They blended passenger pigeon DNA with archaeopteryx dinosaur DNA. So that's science for you. We're bringing back pigeons with a hint of dinosaur. What could go wrong?
In our number 8 spot today, we have the western black rhinoceros. The western black rhino was a subspecies of the black rhinoceros, and they made their home in the savanna of sub-Saharan Africa. These guys were unfortunately the victims of poaching, which led to their rapid decline. Isn't that a bit ironic? People got so greedy trying to kill these incredible animals so that they could make money off of them, and now they can't make any money off of them because they killed them all. What a genius business plan. Anyways, this species first originated around 7 to 8 million years ago, and for most of the 1900s, it was the highest population of rhino species. That all changed, however, as from 1970 to 1992, the population of black rhinos in general decreased by 96%. Other than poachers, another main culprit for the decline was farmers who killed the animals to protect their crops that were placed close to rhino territories. The last sighting of a western black rhinoceros was in 2006 in Cameroon's northern province, and sadly the subspecies was officially declared extinct in 2011.
Number 7. The great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow to 30 inches long, and its tiny wings would only be used to swim. Their wings were about 13 centimeters long, and they were so cute, and obviously, just looking at them, they were quite defenseless. I don't know if you could have picked up on that, yeah. You could probably take them. Very cute, very defenseless, you get it. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting. And sadly, it just happened to be where most, if not all, great auks were living. Newfoundland looked like the iceberg and club penguin. It was kinda, dare I say, perfect. Unless you were, of course, a great auk. You were eating good if you were a fisherman, so the number rapidly declined, and by 1950, the last 2 known specimens ever were hunted by a single fisherman on Aldie Island, just off the coast of Iceland. Yeah, one dude just Thanos the bird population. Nice, what a monster, what a great brunch. Scientists now plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils, or preserved organs, because some have organs in jars just hiding around. They plan on editing their DNA into the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. The organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one. You'll see a few names come up over and over on this list, and yeah, not too many companies are trying to bring animals back from the dead.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Morean viviparous tree snail. This was a species of air-breathing tropical land snails that were endemic to French Polynesia. This extinction was actually caused by a chain of events that happened after something humans did. The African land snail was introduced into Tahiti in 1967 as a food source, but it quickly escaped and began to destroy crops. Biologists wanted to attempt to control the African land snail, so they decided to introduce the rosy wolf snail to the area in 1977. Well, this went absolutely haywire, as the rosy wolf snail didn't just control the population of African land snails, but rather started to eradicate all of the snails that were native to the area, which of course includes our little friend, the Morian viviparous tree snail. So this one little introduction led to them becoming totally extinct in the wild. These snails do still exist in captivity, and there have been attempts to re-release them into the wild, but the rosy wolf snail continues to prey upon them, so at this point researchers are unsure if it will ever be possible for them to live in the wild again.
Number 5. Megatherium, aka giant ground sloths. How lovely and terrifying is this one? Sloths used to be a lot bigger than we think. Yeah, we often laugh at them for being so slow and funny looking. The movie Ice Age certainly didn't help their case. Now, of course, the giant ground sloth is closely related to our modern three-toed sloth. But luckily for us, today's aren't the same size as an elephant, because that would be a horror film. We wouldn't be alive anymore. I'd be sick to my stomach. If a giant elephant-sized sloth was in that movie, that would be not a family feature film. That is terrifying. That's Jurassic Park now. But we may be able to bring this one back, although they died off 8,000 years ago. DNA samples were extracted from their hairy remains, so the next step is to develop a fetus in an artificial womb. Yeah, that sounds easy, doesn't it? Let's just do that, sure. Let's 3D print it.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Tasmanian tiger. These guys are actually less like tigers that we're used to, but they're actually marsupials. But not really like the marsupials we know today. These guys are a carnivorous marsupial that was native to Australia mainland and the islands of Tasmania and New Guinea. These guys had anatomy and adaptations that bared similarities to both tigers and wolves, despite being unrelated. They were certainly an apex predator at their time, and as of now, their closest ancestors that are still surviving are the Tasmanian devil and the numat. Because of these living relatives, it is thought that scientists might be able to bring back these creatures by selecting certain parts of their DNA and sort of selectively breeding the species back into reality.
Number 3. The moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. The moa were these flightless birds, massive and terrifying, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave. Its flesh and everything was still attached. They had no idea what they were looking at for numerous years. And to be fair, yeah, it's haunting, it's terrifying. These ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison to, the scary ones. But the birds actually stopped flying right after dinosaurs went extinct because they didn't need to fly anymore. They didn't need to run for their lives. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University in Canberra, these birds were then safely able to roam the land after they didn't need to make these daring dino air escapes. It's beautiful. They just walked around, got fat, and would hang out in caves, then they eventually died off. Dare I say, the perfect demise. Phillips says this was an advantage when it came to birds and evolution, because wings, big or small, they do kill energy. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability of flight, but, well, it's because they're eating good, okay? Good problems. Scientists have found more moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so yeah, it's a possibility we may see these fatties soar the skies once again. They just gotta, shed a few bird pounds, that's all.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the woolly rhinoceros. We talked about another kind of rhino before, but now we have a woolly one. I didn't even really know that these once used to exist. These guys were a species that was quite common in Europe and Asia during the Pleistocene, and they survived up until the end of the last glacial period. These guys were an animal that is seen depicted in cave paintings, and we have even discovered their bones and remains that were mummified and preserved in permafrost. These guys were stocky and they had a thick woolly coat which helped them survive in the cold tundra environment. In 2020, there was actually one of the best preserved remains of one of these animals ever found, which is a remarkable scientific discovery, but it has now prompted the questions about possibly reviving the species.
And finally, number 1. The smartest of them all, the biggest, baddest, the dodo bird. Dodo birds were once big and beautiful. They once filled islands all over the Indian Ocean. They had massive talons, they were gray and blue, they didn't have any natural predator, it was great. And then humans came along. Nice, way to go. Put that thumbs up for just f***ing up everything possibly around us. Around 1507, the island was discovered by Portuguese sailors, and yeah, the rest is history. We can probably figure out what happened there. It was delicious, dare I say. They were the easiest bird to hunt, hence the phrase, dead as a dodo. They're kind of stupid. They weren't just loved by sailors either, they were not 100% to blame here, okay? Monkeys, rats, pigs, any animal that made its way to these islands easily had their eggs for lunch, and they were pretty big. They were nice. Over easy. So it didn't take a long time for the dodo bird population to be completely wiped out, because, you know, yum. The last dodo was hunted in 1681, but could it be? Could we bring back the smartest dodo bird? Possibly. I don't really want this to happen. It'd be terrifying, but it might. Scientists found an extremely well-preserved dodo skeleton back in 2007, so we may have a chance at picking apart some DNA. A research facility near Melbourne, Australia is currently trying to use pigeon genes to bring this bird back as well. So yeah, I can't wait for dodo bird chicken wings. That's gonna be a nice combo. Number 4. Ooh, number 3. Definitely number 3.
Number 5. Dinsdale film. Aeronautical engineer Tim Dinsdale filmed a hump that left a wake crossing Loch Ness in 1960. Tim, who reportedly had the sighting on his final day of search, described the creature as reddish with blotches on its side. He said that when he mounted his camera, the object began to move, and he shot 40 feet of film. According to Jarek, the object was probably animate, and others were skeptical, saying that the bump cannot be ruled out as being a boat. In 1993, Discovery Communications produced the documentary, again Loch Ness Discovered, with a digital enhancement of the Dinsdale film. A person who enhanced the film noticed a shadow in the negative that was not obvious in the developed film. By enhancing and overlaying frames, he found what appeared to be a rear body of a creature underwater. Before I saw the film, I thought the Loch Ness Monster was a load of rubbish. Having done enhancement, I'm not too sure, they said. Number 4. George Edwards photograph. On August 3rd, 2012, skipper George Edwards claimed a photo he took on November 2nd, 2011 shows Nessie. George claims that he had searched for the monster for 26 years and reportedly spent 60 hours per week on the loch aboard his boat, Nessie Hunter IV, taking tourists for rides on the lake. He said, "In my opinion, it probably looks kinda like a manatee, but not a mammal. When people see 3 humps, they're probably just seeing 3 separate monsters." Other researchers have questioned the photograph's authenticity, and Loch Ness researcher Steve Feldman suggests that the object in the water is a fiberglass hump used in the National Geographic Channel documentary in which George had participated. Now, researcher Dick Rayner said George told him he had faked a photograph in 1986 that he claimed was genuine in the Nat Geo documentary. Although he admitted in October 2013 that his 2011 photo was a hoax, he insisted that the 1986 photo was genuine. Number 3. David Elder video. On August 27th, 2013, tourist David Elder presented a 5-minute video of a mysterious wave in the loch. According to David, the wave was produced by a 15-foot solid black object just under the surface of the water. Now, David from East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire, was taking a picture of a swan in the Fort Augustus Pier on the southwestern end of the loch when he captured the movement. He said the water was very still at the time and there were no ripples coming off the waves and no other activity on the water. Skeptics suggest that the wave may have been caused by a wind gust, but I'd like to think that it was Nessie. Number 2. Peter MacNab. On July 29th, 1955, Peter MacNab took a photograph at Urquhart Castle that depicted 2 long black humps in the water. The photograph was not made public until it appeared on Constant White's 1957 book on the subject of the Loch Ness Monster, and on October 23rd, 1958, it was published by the Weekly Scotsman. Author Ronald Binns wrote the phenomenon which MacNab photographed could easily be a wave effect resulting in 3 trawlers traveling closely together up the loch. Other researchers considered the photograph a hoax, and Roy McCall requested to use the photograph in his 1976 book. He received an original negative from MacNab, but discovered it was different from the photograph that appeared in White's book. The tree at the bottom left in White's was missing from the negative, and it is suspected that the photograph was doctored by rephotographing the print. And coming at number 1 is George Spicer. Interest in the monster was sparked by a sighting on July 22nd, 1933, when George Spicer and his wife saw the most extraordinary form of an animal cross the road in front of their car. They described the creature as having a large body, about 4 feet high and 20 feet long, and a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as the 10 to 12 foot width of the road. They saw no limbs, and it lurched across the road towards the loch 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. George described it as the nearest approach to dragon, a prehistoric animal that I have ever seen in my life, and as having a long neck which moved up and down in a manner of a scenic railway. It had an animal in its mouth and a body that was fairly big with a high back, but if there were any feet it must have been the web kind, and as far as a tail I cannot say as it moved so rapidly, and when we got to the spot it had probably disappeared into the loch.
In our number 5 spot today we have the Mbiresaurus kopchikai. Earlier this year was announced announced that a stocky armored dinosaur with quote distinctive plating was found in southwestern China. This discovery was incredibly important because scientists believed that this might mark the earliest well-preserved armored dinosaur ever found in China. Armored dinosaurs are exceptionally interesting, and while there are many fossils of these kinds of creatures from the late Jurassic period up until the end of dinosaurs, there really aren't a lot from the earlier periods, which is why scientists are particularly interested in these fossils. The remains of this dinosaur show experts that it was medium-sized, covered in sharp spines, and was quite sturdy and stocky, especially in comparison to the other species it would have lived beside. In our number 4 spot today, we have the winged reptile. Back in 2017 in Scotland, sticking out from some limestone in the water was the fossil of a prehistoric creature that was just waiting to be discovered. Upon further research, it was realized that these were the remains of one of the largest flying reptiles ever found that dates back 170 million years ago. The estimated wingspan of this creature was somewhere from 2.5 to 3 meters, although the remains that were found were that of a juvenile who would have still been actively growing. The creature was named after the Gaelic words for winged reptile, and this discovery was fascinating because it changed what we knew about the timeline and history of winged reptiles. It was previously thought that these kinds of creatures didn't reach the massive size of this one until roughly 25 million years later, but this discovery of course showed us that that simply was not true. This guy is now believed to have been one of the first big flying creatures that roamed the planet. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Dragon of Death. This massive prehistoric creature has been dubbed the Dragon of Death as it once hunted prey from the sky around 86 million years ago. With its wings fully extended, this creature is said to have measured a massive 9 meters or 30 feet from one wingtip to the other. If that wasn't enough, it is also said that this species is as tall as a giraffe, so in just size alone, this creature is terrifying. While scientists believe that this creature spent most of its time on the ground, they also believe that it may have been one of the first predators to use its wings to hunt prey, as it lived and flew in a time before the evolution of birds. In our number 2 spot today, we have the apex predator. So if you're like me and have a pretty basic understanding of dinosaurs, when someone asks what one of the most terrifying dinosaurs was, I'd say a T-Rex. And while this is partially true, it is also true that for tens of millions of years, T-Rexes were tiny, and it was other gigantic creatures who were really winning when it came to the whole apex predator thing. At some point though, there was a switch where T-Rexes gained the coveted title they have today, and researchers still aren't quite sure exactly how this happened or when it happened. But they did recently discover a new species that just might help piece some things together. This new dinosaur was identified by a bone found in a 90 million year old rock in Uzbekistan, and it is a creature that is thought to have been about 30 feet long. The dinosaur, which I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of, maybe we can have it somewhere up on the screen and you'll see why, like Mbiresaurus uzbekistanacensis, like that's my best guess, was larger than T-Rexes in the same habitat, but at some point they began to give up their habitats to T-Rexes, and right now scientists are hoping that this new discovery might just give them a little insight as to why. In our number 1 spot today, we have Australotitan cooperensis. Researchers in Australia have confirmed that they recently have found the remains of the largest dinosaur ever to live in Australia. This creature was massive, being said to measure about 80 to 100 feet long and 16 to 21 feet tall at its hip, while weighing somewhere between 25 to 81 tons. These impressive measurements land this creature a spot in the list of top 15 largest dinosaurs ever discovered. These fossilized bones were first excavated from the ground back in 2006 and 2007, but it wasn't until more recent years that these findings were announced, as it takes years of analysis to confirm these kinds of things. These creatures would have lived about 92 to 96 million years ago, at a time when Queensland was still connected to Antarctica, which has made researchers hypothesize that there might be more of these gigantic fossils beneath the earth in Antarctica as well.
Number 5. Lion cubs. As I've mentioned before, Siberia is a place that is fairly popular for finding frozen specimens, and this time they didn't just find one animal, but instead 2 matching ones. They found 2 mummified cave lions that lived during the Ice Age around 30,000 years ago, giving them the names Sparta and Boris. They were found in 2017 and 2018 by mammoth tusk collectors, and one of the cubs was believed at the time to be the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. It was originally thought that the two cubs they discovered were siblings, being only a few months old at the time of their death, but research showed that Boris had actually died about 15,000 years before Sparta. Sparta still had her fur, teeth, skin, organs, and even her whiskers, looking like she may have only recently died despite being a part of a species that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. If given the chance to grow up, the cubs would have managed to grow to 5 feet long and weigh almost 1,000 pounds. Number 4. Sharks. Creatures that are found frozen in ice don't always actually come from the Ice Age. There are plenty of cold places right now where animals can unfortunately become trapped, or pass away and then freeze. In Cape Cod, Massachusetts, it has become startlingly common for giant sharks to become frozen in the ice off the coast. A few years ago, they found a total of 4 different sharks that had all become frozen in the ice and passed away. The sharks were apparently becoming trapped in shallow waters during changing weather conditions, and sudden cold snaps would cause them to freeze and die. The thresher sharks that were commonly becoming trapped were apparently not a very well-studied species, so the bodies that were found were taken and thawed in order to be dissected and researched. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy even went so far to refer to the specimens as sharksicles, but probably not something you'd want to eat on a hot day in the summer. Number 3. Mummies. Human remains are usually found when archaeologists dig up large graves and find skeletons, but in a rare case they manage to find the well-preserved and mummified body of a woman. A group of hikers exploring an Argentinian volcano found the body of a woman who appeared to have died around 500 years ago. The body was well preserved due to the incredibly high and cold elevation at which it was found. It's believed that the body was there as part of an ancient sacrificial ritual, and the woman, named the Inca Ice Maiden, was sacrificed. She was given lots of food and drink before being led up the volcano, where she was left to die of exposure. The discovery of her body was also incredibly important because from samples they took, they were able to discover that she was fighting tuberculosis, and these sorts of samples can help us work towards fighting these diseases in the modern day. Number 2. Foal. In the summer of 2018, they found what they called the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. Feels like they say that a lot. Anyways, mammoth tusk hunters in Siberia found the body of an around 42,000-year-old horse foal, incredibly well preserved thanks to the cold temperatures. They say that it was only about 2 weeks old at the time of its death, and they were able to extract both blood and urine samples from it. The discovery apparently pushed scientists closer to the hope that they could bring these extinct creatures like mammoths back to life. I think we should listen to Jurassic Park's warnings and just deal with the animals we actually have right now. I know you might be thinking that a baby horse isn't some terrifying giant Ice Age creature, but full-grown horses are pretty big, okay, and they're actually kind of terrifying. I mean, they basically walk on one giant finger. It's creepy, and I don't like it. Number 1. Baby mammoth. During the Ice Age, mammoths were one of the biggest creatures around, basically being massive furry elephants. This young woolly mammoth specimen was found in, you guessed it, Siberia. This incredibly well-preserved body of a young female woolly mammoth named Yuka is said to have lived around 28,000 years ago, and they were discovered around a decade ago. Due to her good condition, scientists were eager to conduct experiments, and one of those was taking cells from her body. When they put the cells together, they found that they were still active, even almost 30,000 years later, so they managed to technically revive Yuka in a way. At full size, woolly mammoths were usually around 13 feet tall and would weigh around 13,000 pounds, or the same as around 26,000 large oranges if that helps you picture it.
In our number 5 spot today, we have Jonah's mouse lemur. Mouse lemurs are, of course, a group of lemurs who are shy nocturnal primates. These animals are usually found in Madagascar and are the smallest group of known primates in the world, usually growing to around the size of a human fist. Back Back in 2020, scientists were able to discover a new kind of mouse lemur, which is now being called Jonah's mouse lemur. They were able to distinguish this new species from the others by using genomic data and mitochondrial DNA, as well as just its general appearance. These new ones are slightly bigger than average, and they have a reddish-brown body with white stripes on their nose, thick fur, and small little ears. So far, we have only found Jonah's mouse lemurs in a small lowland rainforest in northeast Madagascar. Unfortunately, with their discovery comes the realization that they are also endangered, which is actually the case for all lemurs, mouse or otherwise. The main threats to their life come from the deforestation currently happening within Madagascar and their natural habitats. In our number 4 spot today, we have the forest bumblebee. These little guys were found by researchers from Sweden in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The reason they hadn't been previously discovered is because they look identical to another species of bumblebee that had already been discovered, but through genome sequences, we were able to finally realize that there is a distinguishable difference. This discovery has led researchers to believe that there may be even more undiscovered species of bumblebees than previously thought, as well as the fact that the warming of colder regions might be prompting the birth of new species. This is super cool because, of course, evolution is a thing that takes a lot of time, but it truly is happening all around us all of the time. Because this discovery came just last year, more research will soon be conducted to see just how many species of bumblebees we've been misidentifying. Maybe we're really close to learning about even more new ones. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Central African slender-snouted crocodile. This is a species that was discovered quite a while ago, but it wasn't until just a few years ago that it was realized to be its own species. After 2 main studies into this species, one in 2014 and one in 2018, this medium-sized freshwater species was classified to be the Central African slender-snouted crocodile. These guys can be found from Cameroon to Tanzania, but their discovery came with some bad news. Crocodile expert Matthew Shirley said, quote, "Recognizing the slender-snouted crocodile as actually comprised of 2 different species is cause for great conservation concern." He went on to say, quote, "We estimate only 10% of slender-snouted crocodiles occur in West Africa, effectively diminishing its population by 90%. This makes the West African slender-snouted crocodile one of the most critically endangered crocodile species in the world." While crocodiles are a bit of a scary creature themselves, nothing compares to the news of a newly discovered species being found and at the same time being known to be endangered. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Dragon of Death. Okay, so this discovery is a little different from the others on this list because unfortunately this creature is long extinct, but that doesn't mean its discovery isn't absolutely fascinating. This massive prehistoric creature has been dubbed the Dragon of Death as it once hunted prey from the sky around 86 million years ago. With its wings fully extended, this creature is said to have measured a massive 9 meters or 30 feet from one wingtip to the other. If that wasn't enough, it is also said that this species is as tall as a giraffe, so in just size alone, this creature is absolutely terrifying. While scientists believe that this creature spent most of its time on the ground, they also believe that it may have been one of the first predators to use its wings to hunt prey, as it lived and flew in a time before the evolution of birds. In our number 1 spot today, we have new nematodes. Back in September of 2019, a wholesale tarantula breeder, which for a second, let's just talk about how that sounds like the worst job in the history of jobs. Anyway, this guy contacted a parasitologist named Adler Dillman because there was a mysterious infection that was harming some of his tarantulas and he needed help figuring out what it was. The specimens who were sent for testing were found to have an odd white mass around their mouth area. This led to Adler recognizing these as nematodes. It is said that prior to this, scientists in Europe did identify the first nematodes found on tarantulas, but the research only examined the worms themselves and not the worms as found on the spiders. Adler was able to see this gap in the research and fill it in with some frightening information. Once infected by these worms, tarantulas will begin to exhibit strange behaviors. They will do things like walking around on their tiptoes, they won't eat, and the appendages that control their fangs will stop working. Tarantulas apparently don't need to eat a lot, so it may take a while, but this will eventually prove to be fatal, and the spider will starve to death as a result of these newly discovered worms. While we understand the effects, at this point in time, what's left to understand is how these parasites are actually able to change the tarantula tarantula's behavior. Also, the scientific name of these guys is named after Jeff Daniels because of the fact that his character in the 1990 film Arachnophobia saves a town from a deadly infestation of spiders. So, who said that scientists don't have a sense of humor? In our number 5 spot today, we have the crested-tailed mulgara. You're trekking through the Australian desert and suddenly spotting a tiny furry face peeking out from the sands, a creature believed to have vanished nearly a century ago. That's exactly what happened when scientists rediscovered the crested-tailed mulgara in New South Wales Sturt National Park. This carnivorous but undeniably cute marsupial, weighing about 150 grams with pale blonde fur and a distinctive black crest along its thick tail, was thought extinct in the region due to predators like cats and foxes. Captured on camera during a routine survey for the Wild Deserts Project, this little survivor is sparking big excitement. Conservationists are now gearing up to remove invasive species and restore the mulgara's habitat, offering hope that these elusive animals will make a triumphant comeback. It's an amazing discovery that makes me question what secrets are still hiding in the outback. In our number 4 spot today, we have the New Guinea singing dog. Imagine trekking through the mist-shrouded mountains of New Guinea, where the dense jungle hides secrets older than time itself. As dusk settles, a hauntingly beautiful melody floats through the air, a series of harmonic howls unlike anything you've ever heard. Your heart races. Could this be the legendary creature locals speak of in hushed tones? Indeed. It's the New Guinea singing dog, a wild canine once thought to have vanished forever. Known for their extraordinary vocalizations that resemble a chorus of yodels and eerie whale songs, these elusive dogs were believed extinct in the wild for decades. Scientists had only studied them in captivity, where their numbers dwindled and their origins remained a mystery. But hope was rekindled when, in 2016 and again in 2020, explorers and researchers captured stunning images and footage of these animals roaming freely in the remote highlands. With their fox-like appearance, amber eyes, and a bushy tail, the New Guinea singing dogs are not just any wild dogs. They're living fossils, offering a glimpse into the early chapters of canine evolution. Their reappearance has ignited excitement among scientists and conservationists, sparking new studies to understand their genetics, behavior, and how they've survived undetected for so long. In our number 3 spot today, we have the terror skink. Imagine coming face to face with a lizard so fierce it's called the terror skink, boasting fang-like teeth and a menacing glare. First documented in the 1870s on the remote islands of New Caledonia, this 20-inch long reptile was thought to have vanished forever due to habitat loss and invasive rodents. For over a century, the giant terror skink was presumed extinct until daring expeditions in the 2000s captured it on camera, alive and well on secluded islets. This thrilling rediscovery not only brings this formidable creature back into the spotlight, but also ignites hope that other lost species are out there, hidden in the world's unexplored corners, just waiting to be found. In our number 2 spot today, we have black-naped pheasant pigeons. Somewhere in the dense, rugged jungles of Papua New Guinea, scientists were searching for a bird so elusive it hadn't been seen by scientists since 1882. Just as hope began to fade, a camera trap reveals the impossible: a living black-naped pheasant pigeon. This magnificent, ground-dwelling bird, once thought extinct, was captured on camera by intrepid researchers on Ferguson Island after a grueling month-long expedition filled with steep climbs, roaring rivers, and relentless insects. Thanks to invaluable guidance from local hunters who knew the bird as awo, the team rediscovered this mythical creature in the nick of time. And And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the La Palma giant lizard. Picture you're standing atop the sun-soaked cliffs of La Palma, one of the Canary Islands' most enchanting gems, when suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you spot a colossal lizard basking on a rocky outcrop, a creature thought to have vanished centuries ago. This is the La Palma giant lizard, a species once known only from ancient fossils and believed to be extinct. These magnificent reptiles, some reaching astonishing sizes, have been secretly thriving in the island's remote northern cliffs, evading human detection for generations. For over 20 million years, these lizards evolved in splendid isolation on the Canary Islands, growing to giant proportions thanks to the lack of natural predators. Their reign was unchallenged until humans arrived, bringing with them cats, converting wild landscapes into farmland, and hunting these giants, leading to their dramatic decline. But now, like something out of a legend, recent sightings and photographs have unveiled these elusive creatures, capturing them on camera as they lounge under the sun. Scientists are buzzing with excitement, scrambling to confirm the lizard's survival and learn more about their secretive lifestyles. Expeditions are being planned, and conservationists are hopeful that with protection, these ancient reptiles can reclaim their rightful place in the island's ecosystem. The thrilling rediscovery of the La Palma giant lizard is not just a scientific triumph, it is a captivating reminder that our world still harbors hidden wonders. It sparks the imagination and beckons adventurers and nature lovers to ponder what other mysteries await us in the unexplored corners of the earth. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski. We've got Vincent editing this. Check out his links down below if you're interested to see more, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's all about mermaids that were captured on camera. Pretty intriguing, right? So what do you think? Is the footage real or fake? Click the video now to find out more and let us know what you decide. What are you waiting for? Click the video now.